When I was a kid, the disaster we worried about most was a nuclear war. That's why we had a barrel like this down in our basement, filled with cans of food and water. When the nuclear attack came, we were supposed to go downstairs, hunker down, and eat out of that barrel. Today, the greatest risk of global catastrophe doesn't look like this. Instead, it looks like this. If anything kills over 10 million people in the next few decades, it's most likely to be a highly infectious virus rather than a war. Not missiles, but microbes. Now, part of the reason for this is that we have invested a huge amount in nuclear deterrence, but we've actually invested very little in a system to stop an epidemic. We're not ready for the next epidemic. Let's look at Ebola. I'm sure all of you read about it in the newspaper. Lots of tough challenges. I followed it carefully through the case analysis tools we use to track polio eradication. And as you look at what went on, the problem wasn't that there was a system that didn't work well enough. The problem was that we didn't have a system at all. In fact, there are some pretty obvious key missing pieces. We didn't have a group of epidemiologists ready to go who would have gone, seen what the disease was, see how far it had spread. The case reports came in on paper. It was very delayed before they were put online, and they were extremely inaccurate. We didn't have a medical team ready to go. We didn't have a way of preparing people. Now, Médecins Sans Frontières did a great job orchestrating volunteers, but even so, we were far slower than we should have been getting the thousands of workers into these countries. And a large epidemic would require us to have hundreds of thousands of workers. There was no one there to look at treatment approaches, no one to look at the diagnostics, no one to figure out what tools should be used. As an example, we could have taken the blood of survivors, processed it, and put that plasma back in people to protect them. But that was never tried. So there was a lot that was missing, and these things are really a global failure. The WHO is funded to monitor epidemics, but not to do these things I talked about. Now in the movies, it's quite different. There's a group of handsome epidemiologists ready to go. They move in, they save the day, but that's just pure Hollywood. The failure to prepare could allow the next epidemic to be dramatically more devastating than Ebola. Let's look at the progression of Ebola over this year. About 10,000 people died, and nearly all were in the 3 West African countries. There's 3 reasons why it didn't spread more. The first is there was a lot of heroic work by the health workers. They found the people and they prevented more infections. The second is the nature of the virus. Ebola does not spread through the air. And by the time you're contagious, most people are so sick that they're bedridden. Third, it didn't get into many urban areas, and that was just luck. If it had gotten into a lot more urban areas, the case numbers would have been much larger. So next time, we might not be so lucky. You can have a virus where people feel well enough while they're infectious that they get on a plane or they go to a market. The source of the virus could be a natural epidemic like Ebola, or it could be bioterrorism. And so there are things that would literally make things 1,000 times worse. In fact, let's look at a model of a virus spread through the air like the Spanish flu back in 1918. So here's what would happen. It would spread throughout the world very, very quickly. And you can see there's over 30 million people die from that epidemic. So this is a serious problem. We should be concerned. But in fact, we can build a really good response system. We have the benefits of all the science and technology that we talk about here. We've got cell phones to get information from the public and get information out to them. We have satellite maps where we can see where people are and where they're moving. We have advances in biology that should dramatically change the turnaround time to look at a pathogen and be able to make drugs and vaccines that fit for that pathogen. So we can have tools, but those tools need to be put into an overall global health system, and we need preparedness. The best lessons, I think, on how to get prepared are, again, what we do for war. For soldiers, we have full-time waiting to go. We have reserves that can scale us up to large numbers. NATO has a mobile unit that can deploy very rapidly. NATO does a lot of war games to check, are people well-trained? Do they understand about fuel and logistics and the same radio frequencies? So they are absolutely ready to go. So those are the kinds of things we need to deal with an epidemic. What are the key pieces? First is we need strong health systems in poor countries. That's where mothers can give birth safely, kids can get all their vaccines, but also where we'll see the outbreak very early on. We need a medical reserve corps, lots of people who've got the training and background who are ready to go with the expertise. And then we need to pair those medical people with the military, taking advantage of the military's ability to move fast, do logistics, and secure areas. We need to do simulations, germ games, not war games, so that we see where the holes are. The last time a germ game was done in the United States was back in 2001, and it didn't go so well. So far, the score is germs 1, people 0. Finally, we need lots of advanced R&D in areas of vaccines and diagnostics. There are some big breakthroughs, like adeno-associated virus, that could work very, very quickly. Now, I don't have an exact budget for what this would cost, but I'm quite sure it's very modest compared to the potential harm. The World Bank estimates that if we have a worldwide flu epidemic, global wealth will go down by over $3 trillion, and we'd have millions and millions of deaths. These investments offer significant benefits beyond just being ready for the epidemic. The primary health care, the R&D, those things would reduce global health equity and make the world more just as well as more safe. So I think this should absolutely be a priority. There's no need to panic. We don't have to hoard cans of spaghetti or go down into the basement. But we need to get going because time is not on our side. In fact, if there's one positive thing that can come out of the Ebola epidemic, it's that it can serve as an early warning, a wake-up call to get ready. If we start now, we can be ready for the next epidemic. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Joe, and today I'm going to give you a speech about our oceans and our seas. So, if you're ready, we can begin. Ladies and gentlemen, we live on planet Earth, but I'm sorry to tell you that this name is actually not very appropriate. If you look at our planet from far away, if you look at it from space, then you'll see that there is much more water than there is land. So maybe instead of calling it planet Earth, we should call it planet Ocean or planet Sea instead. Interesting idea. Water is incredibly important for us, and we have a lot of it. You may not realize it, but we as humans are incredibly reliant on our seas for a number of reasons. First among them, for our food. As a matter of fact, you could say that our oceans are much more important for food production than farmland is. The ocean provides 3 billion people with almost a fifth of their protein. The seas not only provide us with food, but also an income. Fishing assures the livelihood of 1 in 10 of the world's people, and many of them are among the world's poorest people. Nevertheless, it is very unfortunate to note that our oceans are hugely neglected by us humans. We have very few regulations and laws to protect our seas, and in the Paris Climate Agreement, there is only one tiny reference made to our oceans and how they should be protected. By 2050, some scientists believe that we will have no coral reef left in our oceans at all, which is a huge disaster for Mother Nature. So all of this destruction begs a very important question. Why is it that we are allowing our seas to be destroyed? Why are we allowing ourselves to be so irresponsible with a resource which is so crucially important for humanity? Well, the first problem is that the ocean is so big and so invisible that we simply don't care about it. We live predominantly on land, and we rarely venture out to sea, meaning that our oceans are out of sight and out of mind. If you think about it, the only people who regularly go out to sea are those who do so to earn a living, such as fishermen or those who work on trade vessels. It is also worth remembering that because the ocean is so vast, we assume that we can treat it as we like with very little impact. We take our seas for granted. We think that we can take what we like out of our oceans and we can throw any rubbish into it, and that this will have very few consequences on us and on our planet. The second reason as to why we are wreaking so much havoc with our oceans is to do with how our seas are governed. In some areas of law, there are international rules which are applicable in every country on Earth. But with the seas and our oceans, this is not the case. There are very few rules which apply to all of our water bodies around the whole world. A third factor which explains the destruction in the oceans is global warming. The ocean has warmed by 0.7 degrees Celsius since the 19th century. This has damaged corals, and it encourages fish to leave certain areas and migrate towards cooler waters. The sea has also become more acidic as a result of greater concentrations of carbon dioxide. So, ladies and gentlemen, there are many problems out at sea. There are many issues that need to be resolved. But instead of just focusing on the problems and their causes, we should also try and find solutions. Well, some solutions could come in the form of new technology. There are many proposals to use drones, both airborne drones and drones under our sea, which could help us to monitor our oceans, monitor the environmental impact of what we do on our oceans. But my personal belief is that technology can't help us to solve all our problems. We need to find political solutions. The Paris Climate Agreement was one of the most important and promising solutions in this area, but that mentions very little on our seas and our oceans, and there are certain stakeholders in this agreement who are unwilling to implement its measures, to say the least. So we need to find solutions, and we need to come together to do this. All countries around the world need to reach a binding agreement to help our oceans. So I don't think we're going to be renaming our planet anytime soon, but we certainly do need to find solutions for our seas and our oceans. Thank you.
Señoras y señoras, vivimos en el planeta Tierra. Lamento decirle que no es el mejor nombre, porque si uno mira bien desde lejos, incluso desde muy muy lejos, como del espacio, se dará cuenta que hay muchísima más agua que tierra. Quizá entonces deberíamos cambiarle el nombre. Le podríamos poner planeta océano o planeta mar. Pero en realidad el agua es importantísimo para nosotros, los humanos. Y muchos de nosotros no nos hemos dado cuenta que, por ejemplo, los mares son responsables por, en gran parte, la producción de comida, proporcionando, por ejemplo, 1/5 de la proteína necesaria para más de 3.000 millones de personas. Eso es más productivo que las tierras de cultivo. Aparte de la producción de comida, los océanos también generan ingresos. 1 en 10 personas se gana la vida de la pesca y muchas de estas personas se encuentran en países muy pobres. Es una pena cómo maltratamos nuestros océanos. Y yo creo que lo hacemos porque tenemos muy pocas leyes o normas diseñadas para proteger nuestros mares. Por ejemplo, el Acuerdo Climático de París solo menciona protección de océanos muy brevemente. También hay muchos científicos que creen de aquí al año 2050 ya no van a quedar arrecifes de coral. Y esto realmente sería un desastre para nuestro planeta. Entonces, uno se tiene que preguntar, ¿cómo hemos llegado a este punto? ¿Cómo hemos permitido esta destrucción, esta irresponsabilidad con un recurso tan vital para la humanidad? Quizás es porque el océano es tan grande que es casi invisible. O posiblemente no nos importa, porque la gran parte de nosotros predominadamente vivimos en la tierra y rara vez nos aventuramos al mar. El mar es solamente para los profesionales, los pescadores, los que trabajan en naves comerciales. Pero me da la impresión que nosotros tomamos el mar y el océano como que siempre van a estar. Sacamos lo que queremos y ¿qué es lo que devolvemos? Tiramos nuestra basura al mar, sin medir las consecuencias, ni para nosotros, ni para el mar. La segunda razón es porque, aunque en algunas áreas de la ley los océanos sí están protegidos, pero eso no es cierto para los mares. Ahí cambia. Ahí tenemos muy pocas leyes que nos ayudan a gobernar. La tercera razón puede ser el calentamiento global. Desde el siglo XIX, el océano ha subido por 0.07 grados, más cálido. Y esto ha producido una migración de peces hacia aguas más frías, evitando aguas ácidas con mayor concentración de CO2. Señores y señoras, hay muchos problemas y temas que tenemos que resolver en referencia a nuestros océanos. Pero en vez de enfocarnos en todos los problemas, ¿por qué no hablamos acerca de algunas soluciones? Nuevas tecnologías, por ejemplo. Drones en el aire y bajo el agua pueden ayudar a monitorear el impacto que hemos tenido sobre los océanos. Pero mi opinión personal es que en este caso la tecnología no es la solución. La solución que necesitamos es política. Si tomamos el Acuerdo Climático de París que mencioné hace poco rato, es un buen punto de partida. Pero como dije, menciona poco sobre la protección de los mares. Y también hemos visto que hay muchos partidos interesantes que no están muy inclinados en implementar las medidas que el acuerdo menciona. Entonces, ¿a dónde estamos? Yo pienso que la solución es que nos tenemos que unir, nos tenemos que juntar y desarrollar un acuerdo que nos vincula uno con el otro. Y esto va a ayudar a proteger nuestros mares. Cambiar el nombre del planeta lo veo como poco probable. Pero sí lo que me queda claro es la necesidad de encontrar una solución para proteger nuestros mares y océanos. Muchas gracias.